93. This is Aman Asha Renew from asharenew.com. Today we will speak on should you practice black or white magic. These are ideas to consider. The first thing we must consider is the actual word itself. If the letters become numbers, the M becomes the 13th letter, A becomes the first letter, G becomes the 7th letter, I becomes the 9th letter, C becomes the 3rd letter, and K becomes the 11th letter. Once we add up all of these numbers, 13 plus 1 plus 7 plus 9 plus 3 plus 11. And we reduce the sum into a single digit. That single digit that we arrive at will be the number 8, which corresponds to the planet Saturn, which we will get into later. For now, the 8 is connected to the universe card in any tarot deck, which represents the completion of the great work. Because the completion of the great work makes you the universe. In a sense of the all, you become one with the all. There is no longer no separation between you and the higher forces of the universe, which we consider to be magical. And because the word magic takes us to the planet Saturn, which is the elder planet of the solar system because it is the oldest planet, that means that magic is the oldest science. Magic is not separate from science, just like magic is not separate from mathematics. Magic is simply high science and high mathematics. So anything that appears to be magical is simply higher than we can comprehend. So we just use the word magic or magical to explain something we truly don't understand, so we can at least give it a word. However, I will do my best to expand our understanding of magic so that we have a mathematical and scientific basis. In order to establish that mathematical and scientific basis, the first thing we must consider is not only is Saturn connected to the number 8. The number 8, or 26, takes us to the deity called Chronos, who is the timekeeper. So not only is Saturn the elder of the solar system, which teaches us the hard lessons that help us to mature and become more responsible, Saturn is also the timekeeper, because the hardest lesson we have to learn in life is the lesson of time. We always hear these quotes about time. Time is money, time waits for no one. We hear all of these quotes about time, But let us dig a little deeper into the secrets of time. Because in order to understand time, we must understand the principles of magic or color theory. Because the fact that we are using colors in the first place, whether it's black, whether it's white, whether it's red, yellow, or blue, the fact that we are utilizing the colors lets us know that color is magical. If we study the chakras, we already know that, as each chakra is represented as a certain color. And that color corresponds to a certain frequency that produces certain results. Let's take it a step further. If we look in front of us, we have the 4 F's when it comes to the principles of magic. We have the feel, the force, the formula, and the frequency. So when it comes to white magic is the art of healing. In order to heal, you must become sensitive to energy, because all disease starts as an energetic problem. In other words, the flow of chi in the body becomes chaotic for whatever reason. And that becomes disease over time. But the very start or the foundation is our chi becomes unregulated and it causes problems. In other words, when we begin to activate our Kundalini to make that journey upwards through the spine or downwards through the spine, depending on if you're starting at the bottom or you're starting at the top. The goal is to illuminate the chakras, which are not physical. You will not physically see chakras, because chakras can be seen with your second sight or your clairvoyance. So chakras are very much real, but you cannot see them. Well, how can something be real that you cannot see? It is the bioenergetic aura that is produced as a result of chakra frequencies that we know chakras exist. If you remove the chakras from a person, they will no longer have an aura. They will no longer have a bioenergetic field. The bioenergetic field is produced from the currents of electromagnetism. So that electromagnetic currency that is flowing throughout the body continuously, if that flow is interrupted, then disease will be the result of that. So the first thing we come into the understanding of when it comes to magic is we have to heal. because the Kundalini awakening can be destructive. In other words, some things have to be damaged in order for them to be rebuilt. So when it comes to the healer can take the form of the metaphysician, as well as the light worker. So all of the metaphysicians and the light workers in the world are essentially healers. The metaphysician is healing the mind because they go into the metaphysics of things, the metaphysical reality, the quantum reality, which goes into consciousness. So a metaphysician strives to correct the view of consciousness because that is what generates our reality. When it comes to the light worker, this is the Reiki healer. This is the ASMR artist. This is the being who has become sensitive to energy. This is also the chakra healer. Anyone who knows how to manipulate the aura is an energy worker. So all of these people that fit into the category of healers are operating as metaphysicians or light workers, or practicing the art of white magic. Next, if we get into the black magic, which represents force, this becomes the art of war. This produces warriors and Amazons. So we can connect this energy to the entrepreneurs. Whether that entrepreneur is at a street level or a corporate level, it is the same energy. Those who study the art of war, the 48 laws of power, people who are into warfare are the black magicians. These are the magicians who have had a taste of the dark side. This is essentially the essence of hip-hop. This is why hip-hop is so aggressive. Hip-hop is essentially black magic. This is why the war energy, whether we are warring against the system or warring against each other, it is the same force. So the magic that is blackened in nature teaches the arts of war, of warfare, how to survive, and how to take advantage of your situation. So when we look at both of these magicians, whether it be a white magician or a black magician, both of these magicians are operating on 3D because they are dealing with the physical body. So although we are speaking about chakras, we're speaking about Kundalini, we're speaking about Chi or Prana, it is centralized in the physical body, so it is still dealing with 3D. Once we go beyond 3D into 4D, now this type of magician deals with formula. This is the art of the Magi, and this is why these people are called wizards and witches, because they understand The formulas of the universe. What are the formulas of the universe? This is why witches know how to work with the roots of the earth. This is why the wizards understand the movements of the stars. Because all of these high sciences are based in formula. So any astrologer will tell you it's just a set of formulas. It's just a set of calculations. Any witch will tell you in order to cook up formulas and elixirs, it's simply a formula you must follow. Because the roots of all plants and herbs are connected to a planet. So earthly planets come in the form of plants and herbs. So on a physical level, that's where the witch dominates, because they understand the formulas of the roots, the herbs, and the plants. And the wizard dominates because the wizard understands the movements of the stars, the celestial plane. All of this is based upon formula. Now we cross over to 5D. Now we are dealing with frequency. This becomes the art of sorcery. This is what creates sorcerers and sorceresses. These are the beings that work directly with the spirit. Because you don't have to work with anything spiritual to be an astrologer or to be a witch, because all you need to do is know formula. All you need to do is essentially know high math and high science. So a step above that is sorcery, because now we go into the arts of necromancy. Now we go into what is deemed forbidden, what is deemed scary, what most people want to stay away from. The reason this is because now we're strictly dealing with frequency. Now you can bring an energy into an environment that wasn't there before. Now you can summon or evoke energies, deities, or spirits of the dead or spirits that are ancient. So necromancy is forbidden in most religious ideology. But the fact that it is forbidden means it is possible. However, just because it is possible does not mean it is popular. And a lot of people, men and women, had to suffer because they practiced these arts. We know about the Salem witch trials. We know about the discrimination between anything that predates religion. Because anything dealing with demons and devils and all of these things, essentially demonology, this comes from a Christian perspective. So we must understand everything or most things that we study about the dark side, especially when it deals with demons, comes from a Christian perspective. This is not coming from practitioners of these arts. These are outsiders coming into something that they do not understand and putting their spin on top of it, and their spin just makes anything ancient demonic. So anything that predates whatever deities that they created with religion becomes devils and demons, and it becomes forbidden. It is associated with the shaitan, it is associated with Satan, so on and so forth. So you can say feel and formula are white magic. So the metaphysicians, the light workers, the wizards, and the witches, you can say, are light magicians or white magicians. And the dark magicians or the black magicians are the warriors, the Amazons, the sorcerers, and the sorceress. Because they are not afraid to deal with the forbidden. And those who do not want to deal with the forbidden or the chaos realm strictly deal with feel and formula. So essentially, anyone watching this video can place themselves in any one of these categories to help you identify who you are and what you are naturally inclined to do. So most people who are metaphysicians and light workers are that because that is what they were inclined to do. Most people who are in the art of war are in the warrior arts is because they had to be in order to survive. Most people that are witches and wizards, again, seeing the benefit of high science and high magic. And most people who are sorcerers and sorceresses dealt with the dark side, whether they was exposed to it willingly or unwillingly. So once again, the 4 F's: feel, force, formula, and frequency. These are separate sciences, but of course, they can be merged together if you have a synchronistic mind, which we will go into next. We have already established that the word magic breaks down to the number 8, coming from 26. An extra element to add here is the number 8, as we already know, is connected to Saturn. If we look at the Kabbalistic breakdown, the Sephirah that is connected with the planet Saturn is the Sephirah Binah. Binah is known as the womb of the great sea. And that's why Binah has the attribute of understanding, the understanding of a thing. The reason I have these 3 tarot cards in front of you, the High Priestess, the Empress, and the Universe, is because these are the cards that correlate to the numbers in which I am showing. The number 2 correlates to the Moon, which then correlates to the Priestess. The number 6 correlates to Venus, which then correlates to the Empress, and of course the number 8 correlates to Saturn, which is correlated to the Universe. So if we look at all of the numbers that break down magic, we see 3 stages of the goddess here, also known as the triple goddess. So when it comes to magic, you are simply tapping into the various stages of the triple goddess. If we look at any of these 3 goddesses, they are androgynous. In other words, they have a dualistic nature. If we look at the High Priestess, she has an instrument in her lap, but that instrument is also a bow and arrow, so it can be used as a weapon. So on one side, she is the assassin. She is the killer. On the other side, she is the holy woman, being able to preserve purity. When we see the Empress then represents the earthly form of the Great Mother, whereas the High Priestess symbolizes more of the pure form, or the temple woman. The Empress is now the forest woman. The woman has now journeyed outside of the temple and now has forged her own domain into the earth. This process is magical because we must first interact with the high priestess in order to attune ourselves to what we call magic. So it is through the high priestess that we attune ourselves to the magical elements. Then it is through the Empress that we begin to unlock the doorways, because the Empress is correlated to the Hebrew letter Daleth, which is symbolized as a door. So the Empress opens up the doors, while the High Priestess helps you to become attuned to the doors in the first place. So once you become attuned to the doors in the first place, that grants you access to the universe, or the macrocosm, which is called the Great Work. And that's why the universe is the last card of the major arcana, the completion of the great work. You see the woman dancing with the serpent. In one hand, she is holding the crescent moon. In the other hand, she is holding the solar rays of the sun. If you look at the Empress, she is holding the flower or the lotus in one hand, and the other hand is receptive. So one hand, she is charging up the plant in her hand, or the root in her hand, and the other hand is being receptive. So each of these goddesses, the triple goddess, represent an androgynous or dualistic nature. And that's why magic, because it is spiritual, because it is dealing with energy, because it is dealing with the unseen, we have to go through the goddess, because the goddess rules over all things that are spiritual. Whenever we have to go within or inside of ourselves, we have to speak to the goddess. And whenever we are trying to manifest and project outwardly, we must talk to the gods. Next, we have the planetary orbits, the time it takes to complete the orbit of the zodiac. So once again, I have these same three planets, the Moon, Venus, and Saturn. It takes the Moon 30 days to go through the entire zodiac. It takes Venus 224 days, and then it takes Saturn 10,755 days. So we literally go from 30 days to over 10,000 days. Just to let it be known the differences between the frequencies. So in other words, we understand that the moon moves very quickly. The moon travels the entire zodiac in 30 days. It takes the Earth 365 days to do that same orbit. This is why the moon has always been connected with magic. Whether it be the goddess, whether it be witches, they have always dedicated their magical arts to the moon. So whether you're following the new moon or the full moon, we actually have a new moon coming up as I record this video, maybe in an hour. It would be the new moon, the April 11th new moon, around 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So about 10 p.m., 10:30 East Coast. So we already know the moon to be highly connected with magic. When we take it to Venus, now that magic becomes earthly. So this is an example of an earth magician, as it takes Venus 224 days to complete the orbit around the zodiac. Venus is still considered one of the faster moving planets in the solar system. So when it comes to the moon and when it comes to Venus, these are considered faster moving planets. The Venus is also connected once again to the Earth. So Venus becomes the Earth magician, And the moon becomes the spiritual magician or the quantum magician. So the moon takes you to the quantum or the subconscious world. Venus takes you to the physical world. And finally, Saturn takes you to those in-between spaces. For those who are familiar with the stories of Cthulhu or the ancient gods and goddesses, they are known to exist in the in-between spaces. So they are neither physical or non-physical. They exist in the in-between spaces. And those in-between mysteries are explored through Saturn, which is why Saturn is represented as the universe. Those in-between spaces is how people work with spirits, because spirits exist in these in-between spaces. And because spirit exists in these in-between spaces, this is what makes the sorcerer and the sorceress. And this is why you see the woman dancing on the head of the serpent in the Saturn card that I just shown in the previous slide. So lastly, to sum this all up, we spoke about the number 8. We also spoke about the 2 and the 6, once again correlating to the moon and Venus. Once we combine the attributes of the moon and Venus, this becomes reactionary harmony. In other words, can you harmonize the reactions of your own subconscious mind? Because we know Venus to represent balance, and the moon represents our reactions, which are controlled by the subconscious, not the conscious. So most of our reactions are not controlled. So when you react to things, whatever type of reaction you have is based on your subconscious energy and not your conscious energy. So in order to harmonize your reactions, that is a fusion of the moon and Venus energy. Balance of subconscious or emotional inner forces. That is what the 26 does. When we combine the 2 and the 6, it gives us balance of subconscious or emotional inner forces. So then you ask yourself, what can magic do for you? Now that it has been explained scientifically and mathematically, removing all of the extras and making it as solid as possible, you then ask yourself, am I a light worker or a dark worker? Do I work with the chaos or do I work with the sun? It is completely up to you, the path you walk, whether it is the right hand, the left hand, or the middle. Because it is all within the same school of thought, which is the magical essence of the seen and unseen. And this is our culture, from the beginning to the end. And there is no beginning or end. It is simply ever repeating itself. So we may lose our connection to nature or our connection to the stars, but eventually we will reestablish that connection, because that is simply the way the universe works, going around within this cipher of infinity. And with that I say peace. 93. Definitely like, comment, subscribe to not just the YouTube but also the website for future information. And with that,